I was actually in a relationship with a narcissist, and I will say a through and through one. I'm not just slapping on the label because I really don't agree with it. For like 2 years. And it was just a friendship. It was, well, actually, that's a lie. It was a fuck ship is what it was. It was so messy and like a friendship, but also there was more there, but whatever. I don't even need to go into the details of it. And I want to say that the reason why I got so looped into it for such a long period of time is my empathy. There was so much trauma on his side. You know, there was a death from one of his parents there when he was younger, an only child, and major, major abandonment issues and so much fear of another woman leaving him. So as a result, he ensured that this is where it got really interesting. And I actually want to use this for examples for you guys. So what happened he is very insecure. And as a result of him being very insecure, it comes from all of his trauma, et cetera, et cetera. But he also never wanted to be left again by another woman. He'd had women cheat on him before, et cetera, and then the death of his mum. He never wanted to be left by another woman. He wanted to save women because it was his whole trauma response from his mom dying, right? So what he would get himself into situations of, and we literally spoke about this because he asked me, like, why do I keep dating these kind of women? So it was a very weird relationship because we'd had a thing before, but then we just were friends, but there was always something more there, and et cetera, et cetera. And let me tell you, there is nothing there now when I realized all of this. So he would be dating all of these very, very insecure women, and he would never commit to them. He would never say we're boyfriend and girlfriend. He would never do any of that. He would just string them along. And, you know, he'd be dating these women consistently for a month. And then I'd be like, oh, so your girlfriend? Oh, no. Sorry, not a month, a year or something. Or like, 8 months. Oh, so your girlfriend? No, not my girlfriend. We're just like, we're just kind of dating, like, see what happens. So I'm like, that's your girlfriend. But he never wanted to commit because he never wanted to be heartbroken again. He never wanted to get too close, and he'd admitted a lot of this, right? So what would happen is that what he didn't realize is, and this is where it's like, sometimes the label can be so unhelpful to people because the intention isn't there. Like, he's not intending to be a bad person. The gaslighting is the gaslighting, the manipulation that would come from him, the taking advantage. It was all coming from a deeply, deeply, deeply insecure place. If you saw him just from an outsider perspective, you would not think he's insecure. But as soon as you would get to know him, you would realize he's probably one of the most insecure people that he knows, but the facade that he puts up is what then gets people sucked in. But then you are on a roller coaster with him is the issue. So what was I saying? So for me, what the breaking point was, he would use me, and then as soon as I would need something, he wouldn't be there, et cetera, et cetera. So it was this constant push and pull. And there was a lot of playing on this connection that we had that was more than friends. And he knew that we'd spoken about it, but nothing was ever done about it, of course, because of course, when people have, and this is kind of a bit of a tangent, but very helpful. So when people have such an intense fear of abandonment, they will not want to commit because their fear is what's driving them. Their fear is driving their life. So their fear of being left, their fear of being heartbroken and hurt, etc., it is bigger than the desire for love, commitment, relationship, etc. And with those people, it doesn't matter how much you convince them. It's up to them. They have to do their own work. They have to come to it in their own time. And like, FYI, I have no interest in this man anymore. I hadn't met my fiance, when he met this guy and doesn't like him, et cetera, et cetera. They've met. And it's very obvious. My friends that know him, it's all been like a very obvious thing, but just want to say this publicly, there is absolutely no desire, no interest there. We are not friends. I have blocked him, et cetera, et cetera. And so what happened what made me realize, the breaking point was that whenever he needed me, I was there because I would see his pain all the time. But whenever I needed him, unless he was getting something out of it and it was making him look good, he wouldn't be there. And so I can't even remember really what the breaking point was. Oh, I know what the breaking point was. I found out a huge lie. And then, of course, He wouldn't admit to it. He'd beat around the bush. He'd kind of gaslight me about it, et cetera, et cetera. Like I was being the weird one, like I was being the crazy one, blah, blah, blah. And then when that's right. Then when I like phoned him to go, and like my fiance and I were organizing to go to London to get a bunch of my stuff that he had from when I was living there, and he had taken it out of my storage unit without me asking to be quote unquote helpful, but really it was to have like be more attached to me, right? Like now he has all of my stuff. It wasn't in my storage unit. He'd gone and taken it all out. So therefore I couldn't just ditch him and leave him because he had all my things. So it was this whole kind of, you know, when you look at it, people could be like, this was all planned out. He planned the whole thing. I don't see it like that. I choose to not see it like that. And I really honestly don't see it like that. I see it more from the perspective of this all comes from such an unconscious place. And at that time, he was trying to get his visa here, blah, blah, blah. Like there was multiple times where I was like, I don't want to be friends anymore. Like this is just fucking stupid what you're doing, etc. You know, like he had a girlfriend, but he wouldn't tell the girlfriend that he was planning on coming to, you know, New York. And then he lied to the girlfriend about why he was coming to New York. And the whole thing, I was just like, I don't like this. And so of course, because I was like, you know, I guess, of course, because the relationship was threatened, to put it into a short way of saying this, because the relationship was threatened from his point of view, he wanted more to cling on to. So the manipulation was him having more of my stuff in his possession. So anyway, I phoned him to be like, we're coming to London. Like, how can we get this? How can we get my stuff from you? And he'd like given half of it away to his friends and like sold it. And I'm like, what the fuck? And so that in that moment, I ripped him a new one, blocked him. And then all of my friends that were friends with him, they also all were like, oh my God, this is a huge wake up call. We'd been wondering about all these weird behaviors and we couldn't put our finger on it. Now this makes sense. So now he's got no friends. Well, at least none of my friends anyway. So sometimes it does take that rock bottom from you. And it's so easy to look back and berate yourself about it of, oh my God, why didn't I say this before, et cetera, et cetera. But what I want to share with you, if you're in this situation, is that you have to believe that you weren't meant to see it. There was lessons in there. There was lessons in there for me. Like I learned so much in that time. And I also want to say that I had good memories with him. As fucked up as that sounds, like I'm not going to say that I didn't, or I'm not going to say those memories were fake. They weren't. I had good memories with him. And, you know, we got to go skiing together. He was a good skier, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, would I do it again? No, but you have to remember that 2 years ago or however long this relationship happened that you were in, you're not in the place that you were in now. And there are lessons and things that you have gotten out of that time with him that you will be grateful for in a year's time or in 3 years' time. Or, you know, you are going to ensure that you don't get fucked over by anybody else again. Maybe this was the wake-up call that you needed to actually look at your own stuff or whatever it was. So nothing is wrong with you. You are not weak. It's so easy to not realize when you're on these addictive roller coasters until towards the end.